Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Big Bros Podcast, episode 52. My name is Jeremy. Welcome if it's your first time joining us. I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host, Ilan. How you going, mate?
Yeah, pretty good. I can't complain. And we're also joined by someone else here, Felix. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Felix, and I'm very, very happy to be making my podcast debut with none other than you two.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show, mate. And we're excited for you to be here. You know, you're a good friend from home, but you've been living abroad for the past year, rather, and been living up in Japan. So I'll let you take it away and tell us a little bit about that, and all the reasons, I guess, why you're there, and hence why we've got you on the show to talk about a few things today.
Yeah, so I suppose I should start in Melbourne. So I did a Bachelor in Honours at Melbourne University, and I had this feeling of wanting to study abroad somewhat, and I sort of, to cut a long story short, grew up in Japan for 2 years and spoke the language, and I was like, well, why not go back there and do masters? And the University of Tokyo had a good program where you could do a Masters of Economics, all taught in English, so it was quite international, student friendly. And I was very fortunate to be able to get a Japanese government scholarship to go over there as well. So I'm in the privileged position to be paid to live in Japan to study, which is really, really fortunate. And so, yeah, I'm 1 year down, back on holiday now. Here I am. And then one more year to go after that. So
Epic.
yeah.
That's an awesome privilege to have, and something that a lot of us would love to be doing. And I think a part of that is, it's quite hard to be away, I'm sure, with juggling relationships, juggling your friendships, missing your family, and you've got a girlfriend, and you're very, she's very lucky to have you, and you're very lucky to have her.
Yeah.
And
one way of putting it.
And as you guys can see from the title, this is something that we want to be chatting about, getting first-hand opinion from, and that's being, living abroad whilst in a long-term relationship. So, talk to us a little bit about that, because that's something that's, been on a lot of our minds for a while. So, we're so excited to get that first-hand perspective from you about it.
Yeah, well, don't know where to start. I guess I should start and say that long distance is very, very doable, and I think if you're with the right person, it shouldn't feel like a slog. It shouldn't feel like you're just, killing time. I mean, obviously there's sacrifices you make. You can't do everything you do in a normal relationship.
Yeah.
But I think our relationship has really strengthened as well over the last 10 and a half, 11 months I've been gone. I mean, and we dated for 8 months. I presume we'll probably talk a bit more about how it all started and stuff, but we dated for 8 months when I went abroad. So at this point, we've done more long distance than not in the overall sense of the relationship.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think obviously it's hard to separate what's just the relationship naturally growing over time and what was spurred on by long distance specifically. But they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. I think there is an element of truth in that.
Yeah.
But absence can also be really bloody annoying. So, you can look at it both ways. But I think, it's been... I wouldn't say it was ever, really tough for us, but it's been an interesting experience. And,
I suppose it helps a lot because, there's an end date in sight. Like, you see a lot of long-distance relationships that emerge, and they tend to never go the distance just because one person's not willing to move for the other.
Yeah.
I feel like in your case, given, you've got 1 more year left, it's way more promising.
Yeah, I think that helps because I suppose, you do see long distances a bit of a sacrifice. You miss out on certain things, but there's always that, it seems rude to say light at the end of the tunnel, because it's not like the whole experience is a dark tunnel metaphorically, but you do have that thing to look forward to. I'll be back for good in probably March of next year, and hopefully then by the end of the year we can be living together, and it's nice to have that. You're not just counting down the next time you see them, but there's also this sort of the overarching thing, the yes, I will be with this person forever. And I think that makes it easier to weigh up long distance as well. Because I think to an extent it's an investment in your future with the person. You say, I'm going to stay with you and with long distance and stuff, and you know, yes, we can't do this, yes, we can't do that, but I'm investing in the fact that I see us together for good, for marriage and all these sort of things, which are weird things to think about. I guess we're all 23 here, right?
Yeah,
You're
we just
24.
recently turned 24, but yeah, same
Are you
age.
as well?
Yeah, I'm 24.
Well, I'm the young one here, but yeah, but I think it's an age where you can really be at any stage and it's not weird. Like, I've got mates posting engagement rings on Instagram.
Yeah,
I've
wow.
got mates that have barely ever spoken to a girl. So it's like, it goes...
It's a bit different.
But it's hard to sort of weigh up these things, I suppose, and say like, do I see myself marrying this person? Well, you're 23, but you have to sort of put your thinking hat on and be a bit mature about it.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, I'd say maybe from 18 to 24, they'll get themselves into long distance relationships, but you'll ask them, do you actually see a long-term potential with them? And they tend to shy away from that question, because I understand it's a scary question, and fair enough. You're pretty much acknowledging, like I either see them as marriage material or I don't. But I feel like with pursuing any form of long distance relationship, and I'm not talking like 2-3 months, I'm talking about like essentially what you're doing. There needs to be that clear, shared kind of common ground that, we both are looking at it as a long-term potential, because it's the whole return on investment. It's like, you're not going to just invest 2 years, 3 years, however long it may be, for, as you said, not having that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, no, I think that's why some people say like, should you be doing long distance at 18? Well, it's like, maybe if you can be really certain, but like, you think of what you thought you knew at 18 versus sort of what you know now, even 5-6 years later. Like, a lot changes. You learn a lot. We're still maturing now as well.
Yeah, we're still rookies at all this thing called life, but
we're still young. COVID took a year and a half, 2 maybe. So you feel younger than you are anyway.
Yeah,
23 would have sounded old as to me like 3 years ago.
Absolutely.
Now I am that. But sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, mate, just for a bit of context, how long were you guys actually talking or seeing each other before making the move? Because I feel like that is a big deciding factor when considering long distance relationships. Because I know that I've had, friends in the past that have been dating someone for half a year, even longer, like a year, and they want to do something that is, actually smaller than what you're doing. Like you're away for like 2 years, and they've been away for like 6 months abroad on exchange in America, and they've decided to break up with their girlfriend because of that. And that's always been something that like I've been a bit skeptical of, because it's 6 months is fleeting in the grand scheme of things. And if you're really with someone that you truly do see that future with, you would, in my opinion, want to stick it out past that 6 month phase of being away. So what, I guess it does come back to your intentions and whatnot, but you being away for 2 years, and that's a big investment like we've spoken about. So how long were you guys seeing each other prior, and I guess what were the initial conversations before making that move?
So we probably started talking, I would say like maybe start of July 2022. So we matched on Hinge. That was how we met initially. And we talked, and we went on a few dates and stuff. And at this point, I think I'd made it clear that I'd applied for the program. But I didn't know my result yet. I didn't know where I was. So I'd been cleared for the scholarship from the Japanese government, but I hadn't. The applications kind of merge. So you get like the all clear on the scholarship, and then you apply to the uni as a scholarship student. So that was what I was waiting on. So if the uni says yes, then I'm in as a scholarship student. If they say no, then I'm getting nothing at all, sort of thing. So I was at that pending point. And Angela, well, that's my girlfriend's name, Angela, she knew this, but I don't think it probably felt that real, really, because it was early stages. And I'm like, oh yeah, I just applied for this. Like, people apply for stuff all the time. But I suppose I was pretty bullish on the fact that I would get in. I had a good feeling about it, because I guess sometimes I'm lucky and things just fall my way. So I just had a feeling. I did. I was bullish. And
absolutely.
So we started dating on August the 5th. I can tell you that. Anniversary date.
Lovely.
So it's probably like a month and a half of talking. Grabbing dinner. She'd met my parents. I hadn't met hers yet, but did soon after. And I think about early mid-September, I would have been cleared. Like, I would have gotten the okay from Tokyo Uni saying you're in. And so, on the face, she was like, oh, I'm so happy for you, congratulations. Call her later that night. She's bawling her eyes out, as you would, right? Because it didn't feel real probably on her end that I might just leave. And, you know, then it's confirmed that I'm going. And so at that point, we're about 2 months into dating now, and she sort of gave me an ultimatum. She said, if you're not going to commit to long distance now, I'm breaking up with you now. Because you wanted to avoid the exact thing where you go right up until the last day and then say bye, break up, and then go to Japan for 2 years. So I wouldn't say my hand was forced or anything, but she gave me the ultimatum early. She said, I'm not going to, like, I really like you, and, you know, we've only dated for 2 months, but we've got 6 more months until you leave. If you can't commit to long distance now, then let's just break up now. Because why make it hurt more in 6 months' time? And in my head, I was like, I don't know, there was never really a decision. It wasn't like, oh, should I do long distance? Shouldn't I? I was just like, yeah, we're doing long distance. So we committed to that pretty early. Like within a month of me finding out I was going, we'd sort of shed our tears and had the big talks and all that, and we're committed to long distance. And then I left start of April last year for Japan. And at that point, we'd been dating for just under 8 months. So it's not a crazy long time. You know, some people are in 3, 4, 5 year relationships that are.
Nevertheless, a healthy amount.
Yeah, enough to get a foundation, I think.
For
enough
sure.
to know your partner. Because you don't want to be learning about them. You don't want to be finding out like crucial stuff while you're in another country. I feel like, you know, you want that foundation. I think that helps as well.
Yeah.
Is like when you meet someone traveling and, you know, then you start long distance, you've had fun with them, but you haven't done the boring bits as well.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of safe, comfy boredom bit can get to people sometimes as well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a nice point you raise as well, because a lot of people sometimes, if they've entered a long distance relationship like very, very soon after dating, like 2 months or whatever, and then they're just going back and forth trips, like say it's an interstate relationship, there's that argument that some people believe that it's just like a holiday type of relationship or a highlights type of relationship where, you know, you're just traveling back and forth and, you know, you're maybe spending a week or two or a weekend with each other at a time and you're just seeing highlights. You're not doing the mundane, boring things in life that happens in relationships. But, you know, you guys had that foundation of doing that for a good like 8 months before going. But also, you know, mad respect to her for, you know, you call it an ultimatum, but I think just naturally it just shows that you guys were both dating with intent. And that's the most important thing. You were very communicative about that from the get-go. Yeah, because I wonder when I like look around at people our age or a bit younger and just in general, and you know, it's a harsh call to make, but I wonder like how many people are dating with intention, or for how many people they're just like, it's just convenient. Yeah. Like, you know the whole situationship stuff. And I feel like some relationships just feel like committed situationships sometimes. And it's like...
I've seen this, sorry to cut you off.
Go.
I've seen this massive trend now, and I'm starting to kind of take a lot more notice of it, which is I feel that people our age, as you said, they fall into these relationships. Yeah. But what happens is they're not truly happy. They're more so comfortable than anything else. Yeah. And that's usually a recipe for disaster in the long run, because you never want to just be comfortable with someone. You want to be completely all in. You want to be 10 out of 10 levels of commitment, because otherwise that little 2-3% that you're not committed, or rather 20-30% that you're not committed, but rather you're just comfortable, I feel like it can bite you on the ass as time goes on, because relationships, they do require a lot of work, and once that honeymoon period ends, you need to have that kind of shared goal and shared intent of making it as good of a relationship as possible. But something I definitely do see is that people are just in relationships now, and we spoke about in our last episode, which is people are happy to just stay comfortable, and they're not truly committed to finding maybe even a better partner for them, because they're scared that they won't find someone else. Yeah. That's at least what I've noticed. Well, I guess it's interesting because, you know, when Angela and I decided we were doing long distance, you know, you tell people. And so, like, the people around her were pretty pessimistic where the long distance would work on it. Like, I think most of her co-workers were like, no, it won't. And then around me, I'd say people were more optimistic. But, like, it was still weird. Like, people were like, oh, my God, you're doing long distance. Like, wow, that's, like, you know, so commendable, as if it's, like, you know, almost the plague, as if, like, long distance is something only a man of Herculean strength can conquer. And it's like, I never fully got that. It's never, and I know we'll talk a bit about logistics sort of and how things work, but it's never felt like a major slog. But I just found it interesting the way people sort of just view long distance as a whole. And maybe
sort of shows what people prioritize in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Sort of going back to the casual stuff.
It's interesting. I mean, I feel like so many people are against it because they think it just never lasts, but they also think it's just, you put yourself through this, year or two, or however long it may be, of just like this uncertainty of whether you'll last. I think also a lot of people in relationships are codependent. And I think when someone is codependent, they're much more reluctant to have their partner go away for some time, pursue their thing like yourself, right? Yeah. I feel like, and I think something we've spoken about even off air is this importance of having a sense of self. That's the prerequisite, I feel like, before any effective long distance relationship. What would you say about that?
Well, even when you go on exchange, like, regardless of your relationship status, you've got to be able to make new friends, talk to new, adapt to a new environment. So if you're a person that sort of struggles with that, you're going to struggle off the bat. So I think, like, for me, I've been very fortunate to not really struggle. Like, I've been able to make new friends and sort of enjoy my life in Japan so far. But yeah, like, I think when people are so attached as a couple that they can't, imagine doing this and that without each other, like, it's sad. Like, Angela would go to something like a boiler room and I'm like, I'd love to be there with her, but I'm not. And, she still needs to have fun. Like, you're not going to deny each other these things just because, you'd rather do it together. Like, obviously, most of what I do, I'd rather do with her, but you can still enjoy your life anyway, and then call at the end of the night and say, like, I did this today. Cool, I did this today. And I think it's been good for her as well to sort of think about the hobbies and how she wants to spend her time now that she's more free, I suppose. I mean, uni's picking up for her quite a lot now, but I think it's good. I wouldn't say everyone should do long distance, but I think it teaches you a lot about yourself, a lot about your partner, and I think it can.
What have you learnt about yourself?
I think for me, I learnt that I can actually, be quite a bit more mature. Because I feel like I generally present as just making shit one-liners most of the time. Like, I'm mostly here to make people laugh. Like, that's the thing. But I know, I guess I sometimes surprise myself with the fact that, he's actually quite mature sometimes. Like, I can have good intellectual things, and you need to be able to communicate maturely sometimes when, long distance, if you have an argument or something gets a bit hairy, this and that. Like,
how do you manage that?
You sort of hear about the never go to bed angry at each other type
important,
of thing.
I reckon. Yep.
I think that's a big thing, especially when you're not waking up in the same bed the morning after.
Yep.
Because maybe you can go to bed a bit, huffy puffy, a bit annoyed, but then, if you wake up together, you can go get a coffee or something, but you don't have that in long distance. And I will say this, I've never been too bad at this. I think probably more from Angela's side, but not bottling stuff up as well.
Yep.
So just nip it out at the bud. If you feel a little bit about this, just say it then and there. Get it out straight away. And Angela's been really good at, she used to bottle things up a bit, I will say. And she's sort of gotten really good at just, if something annoys her or something's a bit this, something's a bit that, she just says it now. And then you can address it then and there. There's absolutely nothing to be gained in playing like little games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Toxic games are only done by toxic people. I'm a believer of that. And especially doing long distance, that's going to be testing of something like this. And I think that's the best mentality to have. You can't go to bed feeling angry at each other. It's just not going to get you anywhere, is it?
You can't afford to sort of be a bit petty because something's annoyed you.
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok the other day. Obviously TikTok's bloody not representative of the real world sometimes, but someone's like, my boyfriend didn't respond for an hour, so I'm not responding for 6 or something. Yeah. And then some guy was like, I do this sometimes in the comments. I'm like, what? Like, why would you? I just don't get it. Like, it's just preposterous to me. Some of that stuff.
I'd say it comes from an insecurity aspect, you know what I mean? You have people who are so insecure in their relationships that they're willing to play these petty games so they can manipulate with their... It's a form of manipulation, whether people like it or not. And I feel like you need to get... If you're pursuing any form of long distance relationship, any relationship will stop, but I think these things are more accentuated at long distance. Your trust needs to be so robust. Your trust of that person needs to be so strong because you're not there monitoring what's happening. You're not getting, you're not auditing them as often. Not that you're auditing your partner ever. Yeah. But the point is you're not...
Can't break into her phone every night.
Yeah, exactly.
Put spyware in there.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like you need to have that trust secured. Do you feel like that, speaking of trust, and throughout the experience of long distance, do you feel like your trust in each other has just grown exponentially?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's again, I sort of said it before, it's hard to separate what is just a relationship growing and what's like long distance specific. Because like we've done 10, 11 months of long distance, and even if we were doing 10, 11 months of not long distance, the relationship would still grow and you'd expect your trust to deepen anyway. So it's hard to sort of
isolate it,
disentangle the effects, and say, well, this is from this, 60% of our trust growth is from long distance, the economist in me wants to be able to do that. You can't. But I can speak on the overall trend, which is, like, we're in a really, really good spot. Like, our trust was already high. But, like, there's nothing that really concerns me now.
How do you manage the things though when it's like, you might be going to a party out in Tokyo, there's going to be girls, or you might just even be hanging out with friends. Some of them might be girls. Are those things just spoken about as very matter of fact, like, yeah, sweet, good, have a nice time, or and for your perspective as well, like if she's going to parties or mixing with guys, like, do thoughts ever enter each other's minds, or do you like find yourself asking questions about it and questioning the situation and the people more so, or is it very much just go about your way, have a good time, we'll be in touch? I mean, I assume that would be the mentality based on you guys having a strong level of trust. But tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so you're right. Like, that is the general thing. But I think also, like, she's what she would call herself, like a girl's girl sort of thing. So she doesn't have that many male friends to begin with. Like, most of her friends are female, and if they are male, they're generally gay. So it's there isn't anyone like super close to her that I guess I should be feeling, threatened by or anything like that. And like, she gets along really well with my mates, but she's like, no, I'm a girl's girl sort of thing. And I'm like, good, be you. And I'm probably the same in the opposite sense, is I'm a fairly like a blokey guy. Yeah. Like, and so I have a few female friends in Japan, but like no one that I'm like crazy close with. I mean, economics is male dominated anywhere in the world, but especially in Japan. Tokyo University is male dominated, and it only gets stronger in the master's degree. So I think in like a cohort of like 30 or 40, there's maybe a couple of girls, like a few girls. So it's like most of my time is spent hanging out with guys. When I go out to like a club or something, it's sort of like two main types of clubs in like Tokyo. The ones where you sort of go to flirt and pick up or something like that, and the ones where you just go for like good old techno stuff. And I mean, you were out with me. You know what the ladder's like. Yeah. Like, you don't really care who's around you. You're just there you're with your mates,
for the music,
and you're just there for the music. And so, like, sure, I might have a throwaway conversation with a girl in like the smoking area at not a bar, a club or something like that. But there's nothing in it, and so I'm very happy just hanging around with guys most of the time. Yeah. She's very happy just hanging around with girls most of the time. So I feel like it's not been a major issue.
That's amazing. And it's like you guys don't find each other like questioning each other about things like this?
No.
It's amazing.
Think there was like one or two hiccups at the start when I probably said stuff about like, I think, like Japanese girls are pretty. I sort of said that as a wider thing, like, wow, they're a pretty thing. And she didn't take that well. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. It was a bit dumb to say. But I don't think even then she ever felt threatened. It just sort of probably cuts into the early insecurities you have in long distance. But yeah, like in the grand scheme of things, it's like, no, there's really nothing. She's a very girl's girl. She was like one of those like I hate all men type, like ironically, but she was like, I just want to be with my girls, and then she's with me. So I guess
absolutely.
I've changed that a bit, but I guess that's reassuring.
For sure, it's reassuring, and
try to make lots of male friends on a night out or something like that.
Yeah,
it's just
for sure
a bit of extra.
Do you reckon that like before you made the decision? Because look, you would have been a single guy in your 20s at some point, and the decision to go to Japan would have been enticing for a lot of reasons. One reason would have been at the time, and this is before you met Angela, it would have been you can experience another country, being single, potentially meet other people there. How was it kind of coming to terms with that idea that you can't have that experience? It's something you have to sacrifice.
Yeah, I think obviously when I applied, it wasn't like a motivating factor to go to Japan single, but it was in the back of my mind. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I speak Japanese. I'm going to Japan. You're a tall white guy. You hear the rumors, you see the American expats, saying vulgar shit. But like, generally speaking, like it was in the back of my mind. I was like, I'll probably have a bit of fun in Japan. And then I start dating Angela, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to have a bit of fun like that in Japan anymore. But I mean, we were sort of talking about it off air, the 90-10 rule. Like, you get 90% of something in a relationship, you chase the other 10%. Then when you get the 10%, you miss the 90 or whatever. It's just a fancy way of saying the grass is greener. But obviously, I think there will always be a part of me that's like curious about how things would have panned out had I gone single. But that curiosity is nothing more than that. I've got no regrets about my decision. I wouldn't do it any other way, 100 times over, same way it is now. But I'm not dumb either. Like, I've sort of thought about it. I'm like, what would have happened? I think running hypotheticals in your life is not a bad activity at all. So, that was always a thing. And when friends come over and they are, having fun, I'm like, well, that may have been me in another life, but I don't care. I don't need it. I don't miss it. It's hard to miss it if it wasn't there in the first place. But, I think it wasn't hard to come to terms with that fact.
I think we can fall in love with fantasies in our head more than the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and I remember being single in Australia, and for months at a time I was just very, very lonely. So it's like, I use that to ground myself as well, I think. Because when I first went over there, I was a bit like, 2 years, long time, bit of that. Went away very quickly, but it's easy to look at, like, your mates on holiday or something having a bit of fun and being like, oh, that should have been me or something like that. But I ground myself. I say, well, you were single for a long time, you hated it. You weren't like desperate for a partner, but you're much happier in a relationship. Why would you sacrifice that now? Probably just ties into what I was saying before about like maturity, longer term view.
Intention.
Intention. And these are things Angela and I have talked about as well. Like, she's not dumb either. Like,
yeah.
She knew that if I went over there single, I probably would have, seen Japanese women and stuff. But it's just like, she doesn't see it as a threat because she has a lot of trust in me.
Absolutely.
And to wrap it up, what would you say are 3 important tips for a couple about to begin a long distance relationship?
Cool. I feel like the sort of obvious cliche ones ring true for good reasons. So one is like communication, just widely, like, make sure you're talking to each other, try and tell them everything that's happening, everything you're feeling, good and bad. Like, just don't leave stones unturned, and that will make a big difference. I think 2 is you've got to learn to keep yourself happy. So you've got to be, like, the same thing we're talking about with the sense of self. I think, like, you've really got to be able to say, even without my girlfriend here, I can say I've got friends, I've got hobbies, I can keep myself busy. Let's say she disappeared for a week, or said, like, I'm going away for a week to somewhere with no reception. Can you actually keep yourself going for a week? Like, something like that. Those sort of hypothetical questions. Obviously, it's not fun, but you want to be able to say, like, I still have a sense of self. And 3rd, that's a tough one. I feel like they're the 2 main ones. I suppose the 3rd is just savor the time you do have together. So, like, we were both sort of like lie in bed and watch TikTok type things. And we do a bit of that. But when, you've got 2 weeks with her when she comes to Tokyo or something like that, got 2 weeks together, then I won't see her for 5 months. You got to try and, like, be proactive, do things like, you want to try and make memories, things you can look back on. Just like, I can go back on my phone now and look at so many photos of things we did in short periods of time in Tokyo and stuff, and it'll be the same while I'm back here now. So I think that's the big thing. So, like, communication is the number 1 thing, everything that entails. 2 is like keeping a strong sense of self, not losing yourself, not being too codependent, like you were saying before. And 3rd is, just like make memories, don't waste any seconds that you have together. And say that should cover it. And just date a good person, that's the other one, and be a good person.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you for sharing that with us, and appreciate the vulnerability as well that you've
appreciate you for having me.
It's been epic and really helpful for us and for a lot of listeners who might be in this situation either now or going forward potentially in the future. So thank you, mate, and we wish the both of you all the best. And it's great to hear how amazing it is for the both of you. So
thank you. Wish you both well on the potty.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. On that note, guys, we hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Happy Tuesday.
Bye.